Good morning. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Um, One of the things that happens when you do thoughts of the day is that you have your kind of idea of how things are going to go, and then life interjects. God interferes. How dare he? And so the stuff in the house, in the manse, in the family that kind of interjects. So um, just get the irony and the humor that I'm doing a wee mini series on how do you cope with anxiety when this happens. Basically, uh, Hannah, I got a phone call from from Hannah on Friday saying I'm at the door. She was at school, um, and I'm at the door, and she's saying, "Can I come in?" So she's 16. She's got a key. I was kind of not absolutely sure as to what was going on. So what had transpired was this was the Friday. On the Wednesday, she had gone to the class. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been English, but I'm not sure. And she had sat beside this other 6-year girl. And obviously, they had been together for about 50 minutes. And then on Friday, it became clear that this girl's mother and this girl's sister both had tested positive for coronavirus. And so Hannah, she, um, I suppose she was quite calm, but she was certainly quite worried, principally about the old people in her life, i.e., her mother and her father. Because old people catch this virus really easily. And so she decided that she was going to self-isolate, which she then proceeded to do for the whole weekend. And what I'm sharing now is the fact that the girl has tested negative. And so even though her mother and her sister have the virus, this fellow pupil in 6th year of Hannah's doesn't have the virus. The point is, this was after the entire weekend. We kind of spoke to Hannah through her door because she stayed in the bedroom. I mean, she did say it was quite a productive weekend as far as the homework was concerned. The point is, she was really quite worried. And it ended up, we were quite worried. And then I'm doing this, deal with your anxiety and how do you cope with when things are stressful? So you suddenly think, God has a sense of humor. As we're going through all these various things on Sunday mornings, God is just and God is pure and God is holy and God is loving and God is uh, compassionate, all the various attributes. One of the things that you never get is God is one of the best stand-up comics going. He's just really, really funny. Sometimes you do have to take it that it's against yourself. But the fact is, um, it's been fairly anxious because we were really concerned. First of all, because Hannah was taking it really seriously and she herself was quite worried. Um, but one of the things you do realize when somebody says, you might have this virus might be in you right now, you actually, well, let's just say you recognize the ease with which anxiety can attack because you think, maybe this is it. Maybe these are the last few days I've got in this house. Maybe these are the last few days I've got on this earth. What do you do with that when the prospect becomes really quite real? So we've now got the all clear, but it did make me think and reflect. I have in the past attempted to have a prayer journal. I have had a prayer journal. I have not been consistent with it, and I haven't been. I don't think I've got the benefit of it long term. But one of the things you consistently get when you talk to people or read of people in books who do keep prayer journals and kind of spiritual journals is the fact that one of the most positive and most powerful faith building things is when you go through a list over the preceding 2 months, 6 months, where you have kept a log of what you've prayed for whom you have prayed, and what situations you prayed. Some of the most encouraging times you'll find in people's lives is that season where they go through their journal and they tick off. If you've done, I think it's the Alpha course, Nicky Gumbel talks about ticking off. That prayer was answered, that prayer was answered, that prayer was answered. You still have the problem of, why did God not answer that prayer? That was really important. That was really significant for the kingdom and for that person. Why did God not? So you still have that problem. But you consistently get, when people talk about keeping a prayer journal, that season of encouragement when you just tick off the list of all the answers that God has given to prayers that you have given, that you have made. And you also have, how would one say, the answers that weren't the answers that you prayed for, but the answers that turned out to be the answers that God's thought would be far better. And it transpired they were. I quote Billy Graham's wife on a regular basis because it's just such a good quote. She said, I thank God for unanswered prayers, because if I hadn't had those prayers unanswered, I would have married the wrong man, not once, but twice. In other words, you thank God for the answers that he has given to the prayers that you've specifically said, God, this is what you need to do. But you also give thanks for the prayers where God didn't answer your prayer. And you see that not answering it, but doing what God did instead, was far, far better. Those times need to be remembered, need to be built upon, and you need to reflect on them when anxiety is something that hits. If you don't, then the power with which anxiety can hit leaves you with no weapons to respond. You need to be clear that in a time when you're feeling, is God even there? There are so many prayers going unanswered. There are so many situations that it's just not, what is God playing at? Those situations where things are not happening in the timing and in the specifics that you pray for need to be set against the many, many, many occasions when God answers prayer, and answers prayer in a way that you didn't even intend, and his answer was even better than what you prayed for. I don't know if you have time to keep a prayer journal. Clearly, as somebody who has tried and not done it very well, I've got a bit of a cheek saying that you should do it. But what I recognize is, in my own life, as I just reflect on the past, as well as reading the benefit that it is to others, I recognize you just need to have the prompt to constantly come back to the fact God answers prayers. Are there loads of situations where you think, well, why doesn't he answer this? Yes, tends to be the high stress, high anxiety, high pressure ones, and you're thinking, why doesn't God answer this now? And I can't give you an answer to that. But I can give you an answer that says you should be faithful in the times when it doesn't appear that God is not answering. Because in those times when it looks as if God is not answering, that has to be set against the time when it's clearly obvious that he is answering, does answer, and I'm suggesting will answer in his perfect timing. our God always hears us. Always. God's response is for our best. May not be with our prayer. His response may not be what we've told him to do, but the fact remains we need to reflect on the times when he has, that we may get a better gauge when he doesn't. 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. You need to remember that. Whether you have a prayer journal or not, I said I was going to go two answers to the question of anxiety. However, the whole situation with Hannah just happened, and so we'll get to that tomorrow. Meantime, go with God, because I know God goes with you.